He felt like he was drowning. Not in water, but in something heavier. Something thick, invisible, pulling him under with every breath. Everything in the room looked the same. Morning light peeked through the blinds. The coffee machine clicked downstairs. Somewhere in the house, one of the kids was laughing. But inside Eric Mason, something was collapsing. He sat at the edge of the bed, elbows on his knees, staring at the hardwood floor like it held an answer. Last night had been normal, or at least what normal had become. Rachel texted that she was staying late at the office again, finishing some last-minute presentation. He'd tucked the kids into bed, scrolled through a late football game, and fallen asleep alone. Again. And what he discovered next broke him completely. He didn't know what made him reach for her phone that morning. Maybe it was intuition. Maybe it was months of quiet moments that didn't quite add up. The quick showers, the phone face down, the sudden interest in cardio. He wasn't suspicious. He told himself that often. He trusted Rachel. 12 years together, 2 kids, a mortgage, family trips, soccer practice, PTA meetings. They had built a life, a real one worth trusting. But when he picked up her phone and saw the name Brandon Keller on a recent call log, something in him shifted. Just a missed call. No message. But it lingered. Brandon Keller. He knew the name. Marketing director. Same company as Rachel. Handsome in a smug, polished kind of way. Charismatic. The kind of guy who always brought too much wine to office parties and hugged a little too long. Eric opened the text thread. He wasn't looking for proof. He just wanted to reassure himself. That's what he told himself. The first messages were dry. Work stuff, campaign dates, venue confirmations, then a picture. It was nothing explicit. Just Rachel, laughing in a low-cut blouse he didn't recognize, holding a glass of wine. Her face was lit in soft candlelight. Her eyes weren't looking at the camera. They were looking past it, at whoever was holding the phone. Brandon replied, "Last night was perfect. I can still taste you." Eric blinked, then stared again, as if the words would rearrange themselves into something innocent. Another message followed. "Rachel, you bring out someone I forgot existed." And just like that, the air left his lungs. He sat frozen, not angry, not even sad yet, just hollow, like he'd stepped out of his body and was watching someone else's disaster unfold. The coffee machine beeped downstairs. Emily and Josh were arguing over cereal. Life was moving. And he was still sitting there, phone in hand, watching his world realign into something unfamiliar. Rachel walked into the bedroom a few minutes later, hair wet, towel wrapped around her. "Morning," she said lightly, then frowned when she saw his face. "What's wrong?" Eric didn't speak. He just held up the phone. She looked at it, blinked, and in that split second before she opened her mouth, he saw it. Panic. Not shock, not confusion. Panic. She reached for the phone, but he pulled it back. "How long?" he asked. His voice didn't even sound like his own. Rachel hesitated, then sat down on the bed, towel still clutched around her. "Eric, I didn't mean... How long?" he repeated louder. She closed her eyes. "A few months." That was it. Just 3 words. No denial, no apology. Just confirmation that their life, their years, their routines, and trust, all of it, had been quietly cracked from the inside. Josh burst into the room in that moment, waving a drawing. "Daddy, look." Eric turned toward him, managing a weak smile. "That's amazing, buddy. Go show Mommy, okay?" Rachel didn't move. She just stared at the floor. Josh ran off. Silence returned. Eric stood up. I'm going to take a drive. Eric, please don't. I'm not going to do anything stupid, he interrupted. I just need air. He grabbed his keys and walked out. The sky was overcast, a kind of dull gray that mirrored the fog in his head. He drove without destination, past familiar streets that suddenly felt distant. The world hadn't changed, but his place in it had. He kept hearing her words. You bring out someone I forgot existed. What did that even mean? Had she forgotten herself in their marriage? Had he? The car rolled to a stop at a red light, and Eric suddenly realized his hands were trembling. He thought of their kids, of school pickups, bedtime stories, scraped knees, spelling tests, of all the little things he carried without complaint. He wasn't perfect. God knows, he wasn't always present. But he showed up. Every day. For her. For them. And now he was the one left behind. Eric didn't remember where he was driving. Just that he didn't want to stop. The roads blurred together in his peripheral vision. Gas stations, chain restaurants, quiet neighborhoods. He turned the radio on, then off. It felt insulting somehow. That music still played. The commercials shouted about sales and vacation packages while his life had just split down the middle. His phone buzzed on the passenger seat. Rachel, he ignored it. Then another buzz. A different name. Matt. Call me when you can. He exhaled. Matt Thompson. His best friend since college. The kind of guy who always showed up when it counted. Eric hadn't told him anything yet, but maybe he didn't need to. He pulled into an empty park lot near a small nature trail, killed the engine, and finally picked up the phone. Matt answered on the first ring. You okay? Came the voice on the other end. No greeting, no small talk. Just that. Eric's throat tightened. He hadn't cried. Not yet. Not even when she admitted it. No, he finally said. There was silence. Then Matt again. Calm and quiet. You want to talk, or you want to sit with the silence for a bit? Eric managed a dry laugh. I don't know what I want. Then start there, Matt said. So he did. He told him everything. About the texts, the picture, Rachel's face when he confronted her, the hollow echo in his chest that hadn't left since. Matt listened without interrupting. Just the occasional the kind that let you know someone was still there. When Eric finally stopped, Matt said, You don't have to decide anything today. I don't even know what I'm deciding. Divorce? Therapy? ? Packing a bag? I feel like I'm standing in a burning house holding a glass of water. That's because you are, Matt said. Emotionally, anyway. Another silence stretched between them. This one heavier. I keep replaying everything, Eric said. All the nights she said she had meetings. The perfume that wasn't hers. The way she stopped laughing at my stupid jokes. And I ignored all of it. Like some blind idiot. You're not an idiot. You were trusting your wife. Eric rubbed his forehead. I don't even know who she is right now. Maybe she doesn't either. That hit deeper than expected. Rachel had always been confident, composed, efficient. She managed schedules, birthday parties, work events, and grocery lists with military precision. But something had changed in the last year. He thought it was burnout. Maybe it was something else. She said Brandon brings out someone she forgot existed, Eric said. Matt sighed. Yeah, that's called bullshit poetry for I wanted attention. Eric gave a bitter chuckle. You always know how to make it worse. I'm not trying to minimize it, man. Just don't romanticize her betrayal. It wasn't a tragic love story. It was a selfish choice. Eric didn't answer, His mind was already spinning again. Rachel's laugh, the kids' drawings on the fridge, the time she cried when Emily had to get stitches. "She's not evil," Eric said softly. "No," Matt agreed. "But she broke something, and you get to decide whether you try to rebuild it or walk away." That night, Eric didn't go home. He checked into a cheap extended-stay hotel on the edge of town. Not because he was angry, but because he couldn't walk back into that house and pretend it still fit around him. He texted Rachel, "I'm safe. Staying somewhere else tonight. We'll talk tomorrow." She replied almost instantly, "I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you." He stared at the words for a long time. Not meant to hurt him? Then who did she think she was hurting when she let someone else undress her? When she sent him pictures? When she lied night after night? He turned off the phone. The hotel room was silent, sterile. Neutral beige walls, stiff sheets, the hum of the air conditioning. But somehow, it felt more honest than the house he'd built. He lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of two worlds pulling at him. The one he thought he had, and the one he was now standing in. When morning came, he woke to his own heartbeat. He hadn't cried. Still, not a tear. Maybe that would come later. Maybe not at all. But what he did know, what had settled into his bones like winter air, was that nothing was going to be the same again. The house was quiet when Eric returned the next morning. Too quiet. Usually by now, Emily would be humming some tune from school while Josh argued with the cereal box. But it was just stillness, like the whole place was holding its breath. Rachel was in the kitchen, still in her robe, hair tied back, no makeup, just her, raw and unfiltered in a way he hadn't seen in years. "Hey," she said, as if they were starting an ordinary day. Eric nodded, set his keys down, and pulled out a chair. "Where are the kids?" "I asked my sister to take them for the weekend. I thought maybe we needed space." He appreciated that, though he didn't say it. They sat in silence for a moment. The coffee pot gurgled behind them, making sounds that didn't belong in this tension. "Can I ask you something?" he finally said. Rachel folded her hands on the table. "Of course." "Why him?" She looked down, not ashamed, just tired. "He was easy," she said quietly. "Always there, always flattering. I didn't go looking for it, but I didn't exactly push it away either." Eric swallowed hard. "Was it just physical?" Rachel looked up. Yes, it was physical, but it wasn't just that. That hurt more than he expected." She continued. "It started as venting. Long hours, tight deadlines, pressure. We talk late, compare notes, joke around. And then one night, he kissed me." Eric didn't flinch, not outwardly. "You could have told me you were struggling," he said. "I didn't want to dump more on you. You were already carrying so much." "Yeah," he said, his voice flat. "I was. Mortgage, bills, schedules. You had the freedom to escape. I didn't." She flinched a little at that. "I know." "No," he said. "I don't think you do." Rachel didn't speak. The silence pressed in. "I kept thinking, maybe I'd been distant. Maybe I hadn't been the best husband lately," Eric continued. "But the truth is, I showed up, every day, even when I was exhausted, even when I felt invisible." "I know," she whispered. He shook his head. "Number, because if you knew, you wouldn't have let someone else into our life, into my place." Rachel's eyes welled with tears. "I made a horrible mistake. I hate what I did. But I never stopped loving you." Eric looked at her then, really looked, and he saw the contradiction, The pain and guilt, yes. But also the part of her that still didn't fully grasp the depth of what she'd done. Love? He echoed. You don't get to define that anymore, not to me. She wiped her cheek with the sleeve of her robe. I'm not asking for forgiveness, she said. I want to find a way to fix this. He stood. The chair scraped across the tile. I'm not ready for fixing anything, he said. Right now, I'm still trying to figure out how to breathe again in a life that doesn't feel like mine anymore. He turned and walked out to the backyard. The morning sun was bright, but everything felt cold. The garden Rachel had planted last spring looked tired, overgrown. Weeds poked between the herbs. Even the roses she'd once babied looked like they'd given up. Funny how much a yard could say. He sat on the steps and exhaled slowly. A few minutes later, Rachel joined him, sitting at a careful distance. I know I don't have the right to ask anything, she said, but I'm asking anyway. Eric didn't look at her. Let's go to counseling, just once. If nothing else, maybe it'll help us figure out how to coexist for the kids. The kids. He closed his eyes. That was the one thing he couldn't run from. Emily's bedtime stories, Josh's soccer games, the innocent questions they'd ask one day when the tension became too thick to hide. Okay, he said at last. One session. Rachel blinked. Really? I'm not promising anything beyond that. I understand. And for the first time since this all began, Eric felt something shift inside. Not hope, not yet, but perhaps the tiniest crack in the wall he'd started to build around himself. Later that day, he called Matt again. Counseling? Matt said. You sure you want to go down that road? No, Eric admitted. But I owe it to the kids to try and understand what the hell happened. Matt was quiet for a moment. Just promise me one thing. What? That you don't lose yourself in trying to forgive her. There's a difference between healing and erasing. Eric nodded slowly. Yeah, I know. He wasn't going into therapy to save a marriage. He was going to find out if there was anything left of it at all. The office smelled like lavender and books. Dr. Lana Price had one of those calm voices that made you feel like nothing in the world was urgent, even if everything inside you was on fire. She greeted them with a warm smile and offered them tea. Rachel accepted. Eric declined. They sat on opposite sides of a pale blue couch, not touching, not even close. So, Dr. Price began, folding her hands in her lap. This is our first session. I won't push either of you to speak, but I'd like to understand what brings you here today. Silence. Rachel looked at Eric, then at her tea. He spoke first. My wife had an affair. No preamble, no softening. Rachel flinched, but didn't argue. Dr. Price nodded slowly. How long ago did you find out? 3 days, Eric said. I found messages, photos. They'd been seeing each other for months. Rachel's eyes were wet again. And how are you feeling today? The therapist asked. Eric almost laughed. Like someone hit the reset button on my life and left me in the wrong version. Rachel set her cup down. Her voice trembled. I know I betrayed him. I'm not going to excuse what I did. But I don't want our marriage to die because of a mistake I made. A mistake, Eric repeated, turning to her. Like leaving the stove on or forgetting a birthday? Is that what this was to you? Dr. Price gently raised a hand. Let's pause. Eric, it's okay to feel angry, but let's aim to express rather than accuse. What did it feel like when you found out? He stared at a point on the rug. It felt like someone was narrating my life without me in it, like I'd been replaced. Rachel's tears came freely now. I didn't stop loving you, she said. Then what was it? He asked, his voice cracking. Because I'm trying to understand how you go from loving someone to sleeping with someone else. She didn't have an answer, not one that made sense, not to him. I felt invisible, she said at last. At home, at work, in my own skin. Brandon, he saw me. Or maybe he just knew what to say. But when I was with him, I didn't feel like a mom or a coworker or a calendar machine. I felt wanted. Eric let out a shaky breath. So you destroyed everything we built to feel wanted. I didn't plan it. No, he snapped. You just didn't stop it. Dr. Price leaned in slightly. Rachel, are you willing to explore where that feeling came from? That sense of invisibility? Rachel nodded slowly. Eric, the therapist continued, are you here to try to repair this relationship? Or are you here to process what happened? Eric was quiet for a long time. I'm here because I don't want to carry this rage into the rest of my life. Whether we stay together or not. I need to understand how the person I trusted most became the person who hurt me the worst. Rachel broke then. Really broke. She leaned forward, sobbing into her hands, shoulders shaking. I never meant to be that person, she whispered. I don't even recognize myself anymore. Eric looked at her, and for a fleeting moment, he didn't see the woman who betrayed him. He saw the woman who held their newborn daughter at 3 a.m., who cried during wedding toasts, who danced in the kitchen barefoot. But the image blurred quickly, overlaid by another woman, one who had lied to his face and let someone else touch what was his. The hour passed slowly. By the time they left, neither spoke. Not in the elevator, not in the car. Back home, Eric stood in the driveway for a long time before going inside. Rachel followed him in, then paused at the base of the stairs. I'm going to sleep in the guest room, she said softly. For now. He nodded. Good. That night, Eric lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Same ceiling, same room, but nothing felt the same. He wasn't sure what the next step was, or if he even wanted to take one. But for the first time, he realized something important. This wasn't just about her betrayal. It was about whether he could live with a version of himself that stayed. Eric started running again. It wasn't intentional. One morning, he just laced up his old sneakers and hit the pavement. The rhythm of his feet hitting the sidewalk felt strangely honest. Painfully repetitive, but honest. Every step said what words couldn't. He didn't tell Rachel. He didn't need to. They were still living in the same house, parallel lives moving without touch. She stayed in the guest room. They communicated like co-workers, brief, functional, polite. The kids hadn't asked questions yet, but they felt it. Children always do. Emily had started drawing pictures with people standing apart. Josh had gotten clingier at bedtime. Eric noticed it all. In therapy, he was quieter now. Rachel still cried, still apologized, still said she was working on herself. She journaled, meditated, read books about shame and rebuilding trust. Eric didn't do any of that. He just ran. One evening after a session, Dr. Price asked him to stay behind. Rachel gave him a look, half curious, half nervous, but left without a word. Eric sat back down. Dr. Price folded her hands. How are you doing? Truly, he shrugged. Still here? That's not the same as healing? I'm not trying to heal, he said. I'm trying to survive. She nodded. Survival is step one. But survival can turn into stagnation if you stay in it too long. Eric looked away. She leaned in slightly. Can I ask something you might not have asked yourself yet? Go ahead. Do you want to stay married because you love Rachel, or because you're afraid of what leaving means? He didn't answer, because he didn't know. That night, Rachel approached him in the kitchen. I made dinner, just spaghetti. I figured you'd be hungry. He almost said no, almost told her to stop pretending this was normal. But instead he sat down and ate. They didn't talk much. But there was something about the clink of silverware and the faint sound of the kids' laughter upstairs that reminded him of a world before all this. I've been thinking about getting a new job, she said suddenly. Not working with Brandon anymore, just cutting that thread completely. He nodded. That's probably smart. She hesitated. Would it make a difference? He paused, fork halfway to his mouth. I don't know, he said. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not at a place where cutting off the match fixes the fire. Rachel swallowed hard. I understand. Later that night, after the kids went to bed, Eric sat in the backyard alone. He watched the moon rise over the fence line, silver light casting long shadows across the lawn. Matt called. How's the battlefield? He asked. Quiet, Eric replied. That can be good or dangerous. Eric chuckled. You ever think about how much of marriage is just habit? Oh yeah, Matt said. But it's the habits you choose after the hard parts that matter. They sat in silence for a bit. Then Eric said, I'm not angry the same way I was. It's changing, morphing into something colder, like disappointment in myself. For what? For not seeing it. For not asking harder questions. For letting myself become this guy who was easy to step over. Don't do that, Matt said. You showed up. You gave everything. You don't get to carry your shame. Eric didn't respond, but he needed to hear it. Later that week, Rachel brought home a new print for the hallway. A generic landscape with muted tones. She held it up. Do you like it? He shrugged. It's fine. She looked at him carefully. I know I can't decorate my way back into your heart. He almost laughed. Almost. But instead he said, You can't. That night, he lay in bed and stared at the ceiling again. But it felt different now. There was something forming inside him, not rage, not sadness. Clarity. He was no longer asking what she had done. He was asking what he was going to do next. Not for the marriage, not for the image. For himself. Eric didn't announce his decision. He arrived at it the way you arrive at morning in late winter. Quietly, slowly, after a long night. No lightning, no tears. Just a stillness that told him he was done, waiting to feel different. The last therapy session felt like a formality. Dr. Price asked her usual questions. Rachel answered with her usual softness. She had become very good at saying the right things, about accountability, growth, trust. She meant them. Eric believed that. But belief wasn't enough anymore. When the session ended, Rachel lingered by the door. Do you want to grab coffee? Eric paused, then said gently, No. She blinked. Not in offense, in understanding. At home, after the kids had gone to bed, Eric asked her to sit down in the living room. No script, no paper, just his voice. I've thought about this every day, he said. I've twisted it in my head, tried to hold it at different angles to see if it changes. But it doesn't. Rachel sat very still. I know you're sorry. I believe you didn't plan this. I believe you're doing the work to understand yourself. And I respect that. She nodded slowly, lips pressed tight. But I don't want to stay married. There it was. She closed her eyes. Her shoulders trembled just slightly. I don't don't want to rebuild something I'll always have to walk through with caution," he continued. "I want to be free to trust the floor beneath me again." Rachel wiped a tear. "I understand. I hope one day we can co-parent with Grace," he said. "Our kids deserve peace." "They do," she whispered. "I'll stay in the house for now, until we figure out next steps. But we both know this chapter is closed." It didn't feel cruel. It felt clean. She stood, walked upstairs. Eric didn't move. He just sat there breathing. The next few weeks were painful, in all the ways endings are painful. Papers, logistics, telling the kids in soft, careful words. Emily cried. Josh asked if it was his fault. That broke him more than anything else. But Eric didn't waver. He began building a new rhythm. He found a small apartment near the kids' school. Nothing fancy. Just warm lighting, clean lines, and a balcony where he could drink coffee in silence. He bought a bike. He started volunteering on weekends at a literacy program downtown. Helping kids read, seeing their eyes light up when they finished a page, it grounded him. Rachel never begged. She never lashed out. Sometimes she'd text updates about the kids. Sometimes they sat together at school events, polite and quiet. And that was okay. One Saturday morning, Emily visited the new apartment. She looked around with wide eyes, holding her backpack like a suitcase. "It's smaller than our house," she said. "It is." Eric smiled. "But we can still build memories here." She nodded. "Can I have a corner for my art stuff?" "You can have the whole wall." Later that night, after she'd fallen asleep on the couch watching cartoons, Eric stepped out onto the balcony. The city hummed in the distance. Cars passed, lights blinked in quiet windows. And for the first time in months, he felt something that wasn't lost. He felt peace. Not the kind that comes from forgetting, the kind that comes from surviving with your soul intact. Some endings don't look like failures. They look like freedom in disguise. He wasn't the same man who found that message on his wife's phone. That man had been broken. But this one was still standing. And sometimes that's everything. If this story resonated with you, give it a like and subscribe. Some heroes don't wear capes. They just refuse to stay broken.